With DC Studios finally getting the ball rolling with the upcoming Lanterns TV show starring Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, I thought it'd be an incredibly fun and humbling idea to force myself to watch the infamously terrible Green Lantern movie starring Ryan Reynolds. Now, despite me constantly talking about terrible superhero movies that I love, such as Catwoman and Batman and Robin, Green Lantern is probably the most terrible superhero movie that I've never got around to discussing on my channel. However, I did what I do best. I rewatched this terrible movie so I could finally talk about it for the sake of everyone's entertainment. You know what they say, in brightest day, in blackest night, no terrible comic book movie shall escape my sight. Without any exaggeration, I can easily say that Green Lantern is one of the worst superhero movies ever made. Green Lantern is a boring, bland, and overly long superhero movie that unfortunately makes you feel every second of its runtime. Green Lantern is so bad that I wish that Green Lantern shamelessly did what every other superhero movie in the early 2000s did. And I know what you're thinking. What did every other superhero movie in the early 2000s do? Shamelessly rip off Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movie formula, because if it did that, it would have been a lot less bland, and it would have forced me to actually analyze the movie and figure out where they strayed away from that formula. It would have forced me to go, okay, yes, this is a beat-by-beat rip-off of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, but what did they do different? How did they stray away? What did they try to do to at least bring something new to that formula? That's just not the case with this movie. This movie is horrendous. The reason I say this is because this movie is almost 2 hours long, and the nicest thing that I can say about it is that I don't overly hate Ryan Reynolds using the Green Lantern powers. I think some of those moments kind of work. Also, I don't know if I can give the movie credit for this, but it was refreshing to see Ryan Reynolds acting like a person that wasn't Ryan Reynolds or wasn't Deadpool-like. Like, I don't know what happened after Deadpool just rose to success and became this pop culture icon, but Ryan Reynolds feels like, or seems like, he just gave up on trying to be something other than Deadpool, and it's not that I blame him. Deadpool rules. Deadpool is so much fun, and it's easy to see why everyone loves Deadpool. But my lord, it is night and day in comparison to how he acted in this film versus every other commercial, every other Instagram post, every other tweet or interview, or any piece of marketing that involves using Ryan Reynolds and being like, hey, remember, he's Deadpool, guys, you love Deadpool. It's just so refreshing. Still though, I can't give this movie credit for that. This movie did come out 5 years before Deadpool. Therefore, not giving it credit. And trust me, I know that nothing that I'm saying is shocking or different from what every other person on the internet has ever said about Green Lantern, because the truth is, we all know deep down inside that Green Lantern sucks. It wasn't a good movie, but here's the reality. We moved on from Green Lantern when it released. Yes, we made fun of it. Yes, it was the butt of the joke for the internet for a while. But after, the DCEU started, we kind of just forgot it was a thing. And then only Ryan Reynolds keeps bringing it up. And everyone's like, Ryan Reynolds, why are you bringing up Green Lantern? Let us forget that Green Lantern exists. So Ryan Reynolds, if you somehow stumble upon this video, you can let go of Green Lantern. That failure didn't define your career. And if anything, we all are just kind of over this movie failing. I'm just talking about it because there's Green Lantern news and we all want to talk about something related to Green Lantern. And here we are, okay? Like, you don't gotta keep bringing up like, oh my God, this movie sucked. Why did I do this movie? This movie almost made me lose my career. We don't care anymore. If it was like 2012, 2013, maybe, but it's been over a decade. The ship has sailed and everything has been set in stone. We all know this movie sucks. And the thing is, Green Lantern sucks so much that it's not like I can make it a part of my ongoing The Missed Potential of series where I go over terrible superhero movies and I'm like, even though it was terrible, it had some good ideas, and if they just made these ideas a little better and executed them a little better, then I feel like people would have actually appreciated this movie more than they do. Not with Green Lantern. Green Lantern is just that bad. And I kind of hate being that person because I'm usually like, hey guys, this movie kind of sucks, but you know what? I kind of like this one thing. No, I don't like anything about this movie. If I'm being completely honest, I suffered while rewatching this movie. And I'm just here talking about it because I need to get something out of this sort of experience. And I know everyone loves watching me suffer for their entertainment, so here we are, you know? And you know what frustrates me the most about Green Lantern? It's not that it sucks. It's not that it's one of the worst superhero movies ever made. It's not that Ryan Reynolds keeps badgering us of like, yo, remember when I did that Green Lantern movie? Remember how much it sucks? Remember the Deadpool 2 joke about how much the Green Lantern movie sucks and how much I regret it? You remember, like, guys, the Green Lantern movie, right? Like, it sucked, right? Like, I got over that, right? It's the simple fact that Green Lantern just feels low effort. Nothing about this movie feels like, you know what? They tried. They put in all this effort. Nothing. And it's like, if you cared so much about this movie, Ryan Reynolds, did you try to save it? Did you try to give input of like, guys, maybe we should not do this thing instead of doing that thing? And I'm only asking this question because 90% of this movie is CGI. 90%. Almost every single shot of Green Lantern is CGI or has some level of CGI involved in it, and it is frustrating. And you know why it's frustrating that this movie is 90% CGI, or at least every single shot of this movie having CGI is frustrating? It's because, and you know what? I'm gonna ask a question that you can answer. It's okay, it's perfectly fine, it is what it is. But have you ever heard of the phrase when people are like, this game sucks, it looks like a PS2 game? Any single time a game has been revealed or we got gameplay footage, just because the game doesn't look crystal clear, 4K, 1080p, or, you know, 120 frames per second, yeah, that phrase is one of the most disingenuous phrases to ever be thrown across social media. However, the one single time that phrase has ever been applicable is with Green Lantern, because Green Lantern looks like a video game, and I mean that in the worst way possible. There is not a single shot in this movie where you're like, oh, they did practical sets for that. Oh, they did a practical stunt for that. Oh, Ryan Reynolds really tried his hardest to make this single scene at least worth something. Nothing about it feels practical outside of the few close-up shots we have of how Jordan flying, trying to figure out what he's doing. And we all know that 90% of the superhero shots where they're flying is just them being dragged across with things that we can't see because, you know, computer graphics, visual effects, whatever. Green Lantern just feels like, yeah, you know, just fix it in post, do a visual effects. It is what it is. They won't complain. This is a space cop movie after all. Like, you know, who cares? He's not a popular character. We're not trying to make him popular. Like, just do what you can. Fix it. It is what it is. Visual effects, CGI, those exist for a reason. Those will be your solution. Green Lantern has no sense of practicality to it. And you want to know why that's a bad thing? It's a bad thing because when you're making a movie about a character who's mostly in space, who's mostly traveling to planets, who's mostly flying in the galaxy and all that, there needs to be a sense of scale. And there is no sense of scale. There is no sense of practicality. There's no sense of, let's at least try to make Green Lantern feel like a genuinely cool superhero like Spider-Man did, like Superman did. There's no sense of like, let's at least try to make Green Lantern this dope character that could make people actually become a fan of him. Green Lantern is just a computer-generated character in this movie. I'm sorry, it's just the truth. Every shot, every distant shot, you could tell CGI. You can tell this looks like a video game. You can tell every single time it is not Ryan Reynolds in that scene. You can tell, and it's bad because not only was it bad then, it is worse now. And if it's worse now, imagine how blatantly obvious it is, because I know no one's gonna watch the movie. I know no one's gonna click on this video and gonna go, you know what? This video made me want to watch Green Lantern to see if he's wrong. No, I know, because no one wants to suffer through Green Lantern like I did. So I promise you, Green Lantern, one of my core issues is that it looks like a PS2 game, and it's just so low effort, and it is so frustrating because it takes you out of the movie every single time you slowly try to get back into it. Every single time you're back out, you try to get back in, and the movie's like, no, don't invest yourself, don't immerse yourself, you're out of this. You don't like this. We know you don't like this. We had to release it. Don't you worry. We'll continue to ruin your suspension of disbelief. It's so obvious, so terrible, so low effort, and so incredibly frustrating that I should not be finding myself thinking, am I watching the world's most expensive video game concept trailer from the early 2010s and not a movie? Because that's what Green Lantern feels like, an actual concept trailer with the world's biggest budget. I cannot fathom being someone who's morbidly curious and wanting to watch this movie and not realizing, like, wow, they did not definitely have that done in CGI. Wow, that scene is definitely not Ryan Reynolds just, standing in an empty room in front of a green screen. Wow, he's talking to nobody because there's no one in front of him. I don't want to talk bad about a character like Kilowog because Kilowog didn't really do anything wrong. Is the design perfect? No, but it is what it is. It's close enough. Kilowog talks to Hal Jordan during the training scene of Green Lantern. However, when Hal Jordan's getting trained and Ryan Reynolds is talking to Kilowog, you're like, wow, he's not talking to anybody. There's no one in front of him. Not a person in a green suit, not a person in a blue suit, not a statue of Kilowog in front of him, nothing. He is talking to no one. He is reacting to a voiceover either in his earpiece or playing through speakers that we can't see because Kilowog is not there. And I know a lot of people are going to say, it's the 2010s. Why are you going so hard on the visual effects or CGI? Because the movie could have at least tried more. The movie could at least have done something to give some sense of practicality, some sense of scale, some sense of believability, something to grasp onto for us to go, you know what? Yes, everything else is terrible, but it did this one thing. And if the one thing they needed to get right was not only the sense of scale, but allowing us to suspend our disbelief, because that is the number one thing when it comes to superhero movies that you need to get right. You need to have the viewer immersed and actually finding themselves believing the sense of scale, believing the sense of damage that was caused because of this superhero fight, believing that Ryan Reynolds, who is not Ryan Reynolds because he's playing Hal Jordan, is the Green Lantern. He is a superhero. He is flying. He is using the ring's power to punch people or create anything that comes to his mind. But you don't find yourself doing any of that. And that's why it's my core issue with this film. And it's not just the CGI that I hate. It's not just the practicality that isn't there that I hate. It's also that they decided to seemingly blow the budget on this film on Hal Jordan's suit because it is so painfully obvious that Ryan Reynolds is not wearing a Green Lantern suit. And trust me, I looked it up. Here is footage. He is not wearing the Green Lantern suit during any portion of this movie. And I don't understand it, because even if it was the worst suit possible, look at the Spider-Man suit. We were able to like the Spider-Man suit. If you cannot do something that is simple and just as cool that you could enhance with visual effects or CGI, what was the point in trying to do this film? No, really, what was the point? Because having to alter every other shot definitely blew this movie's budget. It definitely killed a lot of time during post-production, and it definitely slowed almost everything down, because every single shot of Ryan Reynolds wearing the suit and him stretching out and going like that to show every character, hey, look, I'm the Green Lantern, looks terrible. It looks like someone highlighted over him with a green highlighter because, Green Lantern, of course. But it's just, I don't understand. I can't comprehend it. The easiest layup would have been, let's just make a practical suit and enhance it in post. And I know what a lot of people are thinking. Yeah, all of that is easier said than done. All of that is correct. You're right, but you shouldn't say it because you're a YouTuber. What do you know about making movies? And my counter to that is, if this movie was supposed to be the kickoff to a bunch of big budget DC comic book movies, you gotta come correct. No mistakes, no stone left unturned, nothing that could go back and be something that backfires on the film. And unfortunately, things like this backfire on the film and make it easy for people to hate the film. Whether it's now, whether it's in the past, whether it was when this movie released, not having a practical suit that was obviously CGI'd every single scene that Ryan Reynolds was in was a terrible idea, and it deserves the amount of criticism it still gets to this day, okay? I'm just sorry. It's the truth. It's that bad. And it's not even a bad design. It's just y'all could have worked something out to have a compromise to take this design you wanted to do and bring it to real life and have some sense of practicality, so you don't need to spend so much time trying to make this one design you really wanted to do work. I don't get it. None of this movie I get. None of this. I want you to know, I go out of my way to understand every movie I watch. I try to logically think and wonder, what is the thought process behind this movie, behind this scene, behind this character's motive? What were they thinking? And when it comes to a Green Lantern, I don't know what they were thinking. And you know what? I'll give you two examples of missing the most obvious layups, the most obvious wins that this movie could have had. So movie fans, comic book lovers could have looked at those two things and gone, they got that right. They did that correct. They did that for us who understand the references. Okay? Example number one. Oa. Why is it not green? Why is Oa not green? Why is it a gray planet that has fumes coming out the side and the bottom? I don't get it. Yes, I understand the energy, the Green Lantern powering everything. I get that. You don't gotta explain the comic book stuff. I'm talking about from a design standpoint. Why is it a gray, bland looking planet? Why? Why does it not have the Green Lantern symbol on it? Why is it not green? Why is it not so painfully obvious? Hey, this is Oa. This is where the home of the Lantern Corps is. Let's make it visually easy for you to recognize that. That's such an easy thing. I don't get it. I don't get the thought process. Another example, and the other example I really want to talk about, is when Hal Jordan trained, which is something I referenced earlier. Why did they not go out of their way to make it more entertaining? Where is the comic book references? Yes, I know Sinestro uses the cap shield and he goes like that and it flies and does the thing. I get it. But why did Hal not conjure up the lasso? Why did Hal not conjure up a batarang? Why did Hal not conjure up Thor's hammer? Why wasn't it a back and forth of just fun comic book references so we can at least be like, it did that? That is the key moment of Green Lantern. This is what they did for us, the people who are going to see these comic book movies, because we have loved comic book movies since Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Those are such easy layups that they could have done, that anyone could have thought of during the process of writing this movie. And they didn't. I don't get it. I don't. And it's like, I want to understand. I want to understand this movie, but every single thing about this movie, I don't get it. Terrible CGI, fine. Looking like a PS2 video game, whatever. Missing easy layups that shouldn't have been missed. It is what it is. But you know what I can't forgive? This is something that is so basic, so easy. Something that no superhero movie has ever missed in its lifetime besides this film. Green Lantern doesn't have a theme song. No, really. In a day and age where a plethora of superhero movies have been made, a plethora of superhero movies have been bad, a plethora of superhero movies, help crafted the formula that is the superhero movie formula that we have today. In the 2010s, Green Lantern didn't have a theme song. Yes, it has instrumental music. Yes, it has an OST, but there's no heroic theme song that you're like, this was made for this epic moment or for it to symbolize that Hal is now the Green Lantern. In the same way that every other superhero movie, whether it's Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy, whether it's Catwoman, whether it's Batman 89, Batman and Robin, whether it's Batman 1966, whether it's the terrible Hellboy movies that have all existed, even though I know one of them I'm pretty sure is pretty good, any superhero movie that actually was made during the time prior to Green Lantern's release, they all had theme songs. They all played music to make sure you knew that was this movie's theme song. This is for that character. We are going to play that when this character does something really cool, so it feels hype. That doesn't exist in Green Lantern. How? I don't know. I don't. I want to know. I want to understand. I want to get it. Green Lantern one of the most iconic Justice League members today outside of the big three, didn't have a theme song in his own movie. And I don't understand how they even forgot to do that. And I don't even think that they forgot to do it. I just think they thought, this track that we're gonna play, that's fine. That kind of sounds like a superhero theme song, but it's nothing. It doesn't suffice. It's not good enough. It's nothing worth redeeming or listening to. Trust me, you'll find that if you look up like Green Lantern movie theme song or whatever, and you're gonna be like, yeah, that sounds like an intro. That sounds like an outro. That sounds like it's meant to play while the credits roll, but that is not a theme song. And theme songs are incredibly important to emphasizing key moments of storytelling in superhero movies. Green Lantern forgot to make Hal Jordan likable. Yes, that is right. The protagonist of a superhero movie, Hal Jordan, is not likable. And I know people are going to hit me with different comic book sources and different comic book runs because, you know, Hal Jordan is usually written like this style or that style. I don't mean it in that fashion. I'm not saying he doesn't have a personality. I'm not saying he might not be like a lot of his comic book counterparts. What I mean is that I don't think this movie has an arc for Hal Jordan, because we kind of just stumble our way to the end, and then when we get to the end, they're like, he's a hero now, and you're like, is he? What did he learn? What did he do? There's no growing pains. There was no arc. The villain of this movie, Parallax, doesn't really do anything to warrant making Hal Jordan grow from where he was at in the beginning of the film to being the hero he should have been at the end of the film. He has no arc. And it doesn't make sense because in the beginning of the movie, Hal Jordan is introduced with him driving a car super fast, edgy music playing, him coming off as this really cool guy you want to be like Hal Jordan, right? And then they have him do really cool aviator stuff. And you're like, oh, I really want to be like him. He really is cool. And then they have him have a traumatic flashback to show you how his dad died. And then it's like, okay. And the next thing you know, something happens and the plane falls after the really, really, really long montage scene for airplanes because they want to make sure you got the point about the airplane thing and the connection and all that. Don't care, right? So then after that happens, he crashes or whatever, and everyone's like, oh my God, what happened to you? He doesn't do anything. He doesn't talk to anyone. He's just like, it's no big deal. It is what it is. It happens, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes to him meeting friends and family, and he's like this figure to this younger kid, and you're like, oh, okay. I mean, he's flawed, but maybe he's an inspiration. And then he becomes the Green Lantern. And then for the rest of the film, he's stumbling his way, learning how to become a hero. And until the last 30 minutes of the film, he doesn't do anything heroic. There's no sense of building Hal Jordan, the regular aviator guy that everyone wants to be like, into Hal Jordan, the superhero Green Lantern that everyone should want to be like. And it's just like, why? You couldn't figure out a journey to get there? You couldn't figure out something to do? You couldn't figure out how to make Hal Jordan have an arc? It's like every single type of way they could have messed up this protagonist and show us that they really didn't know what to do with someone like him. They messed up, and it is annoying, it is unfortunate, and it is incredibly noticeable when you get to the end of the movie and they're playing epic music and he's doing a callback to the beginning of the movie and you feel nothing. If you feel nothing at the end of a superhero movie, when the epic music is playing, the callbacks are happening, it's a heroic, action-packed moment, the hero gets the girl, everyone's happy, gets to walk away into the sunset, that means the character had no development, and that means that no one was able to connect to the protagonist, which is another thing you need to do in order to make people care about anything relating to a superhero movie. And with Hal Jordan, you don't care. You don't. He does nothing. He just comes off as a big gray question mark because you're just like, I have to care about him. I have to see what his journey is. I have to see how he becomes the Green Lantern at the end of this film. And rather than being left with questions about the story, you're left with questions about the movie's production. How did they write this? How did they greenlight this? How did they conclude that this was a good story? It's just like, oh my Lord, they got everything wrong. And it's not just with the character. It's not just with the CGI. It's not just with the easiest layups. I should not be questioning movie logic of all things, because if everything else that I just said was wrong or was done poorly or had some level of issues that were just hard to forgive or hard to ignore, let me explain to you the number one thing. And I know I keep saying that, but there's so many bad things about Green Lantern that everything, as far as I'm concerned, is number one. But let me tell you my core issue and the number one thing that really got to me as I watched this movie. And it is the most simple thing that probably shouldn't be noticeable and I probably shouldn't have been thinking about. But it was just so blatant that when I was watching this movie, I was asking my friends and I was just like, hey, I have this question about Green Lantern. I need you to clarify this because I want to make sure that I don't sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. In the scene where Hal decides he wants to figure out how to turn the ring on, he's looking at it, he's looking at his hand, he's trying to say, you know, funny catchphrases, because every movie in the early 2000s, you know, there's always a comedic beat. Let me make the character somehow say funny, iconic movie lines, whatever, right? He finally decides, you know, he taps the lantern, it charges, he starts like glowing, I believe, or the lantern glows, whatever, and then the camera focuses onto his eyes, and he's just staring. He pauses. And this is what the movie wants you to accept here. The movie wants you to accept that after he figured out how to turn the ring on, either the ring altered his DNA to put information into his mind, or the lantern that you cannot hear is speaking to him telekinetically. And it's telling him the Green Lantern oath. Because then he just stares, right? And then he looks at the camera because, you know, he has to look at the camera. And he says the Green Lantern oath. And it's supposed to be this epic moment. It's supposed to be the key moment of the movie. It's supposed to signify he's a hero. He's the Green Lantern. And I'm just looking at this movie and I'm like, you want us to accept that? And I was texting my friends because, like, I wanted to make sure I wasn't going crazy when this scene happened. And I was like, isn't it that when they get the ring, the lantern talks to the person, is like, this person of this Earth sector, you are chosen to be the Green Lantern. You need to accept this oath. And then it says the oath and the person, you know, says yes, no, whatever. And a lot of my friends were like, yeah, that's how it goes. Not in this movie. Green Lantern not only has terrible CGI, not only has terrible script writing, not only looks like a PS2 video game, not only has a terrible protagonist that you feel nothing towards, it also wants you to think about movie logic and comic book logic and make you think back to make sure you're not going crazy, because every decision is poor in this movie. And you know, Green Lantern, it was one of those things where watching this movie was a humbling experience, as I said earlier in the video. It is one of the most frustrating things in the world. And I know that I'm just a YouTuber. I'm just someone that loves talking about comic book movies. I'm someone that loves comic books. I love watching nerd media. I love talking about nerd culture topics. But Green Lantern is so bad it had me wondering if I had potential to be a script writer. What do I know about script writing? That's how bad this movie is. And if you don't believe me, outside of the terrible CGI, outside of the terrible script writing, outside of this movie making you question comic book logic, outside of this movie looking like a PS2 video game, outside of this movie having a terrible protagonist that you're not gonna like whatsoever, not because you hate him, but because you feel nothing towards him, let me tell you about the movie's villain. Y'all remember Parallax, the fear-eating space cloud that looks like a thumb because it was a corrupted guardian of Oa who wanted to try to conquer fear? Yeah, that Parallax, he does nothing in this movie. No, really. He sits in space and he just eats fear. That's his thing. And I'm not saying that this movie got this wrong, but what this movie got wrong was making Parallax take over a supporting character who is, I believe, Hector Hammond. I have the name written down. In fact, I'll double check live for the sake of this video. Yeah, his name is Hector Hammond. You're welcome. And doing nothing. He just corrupts Hector Hammond because apparently Parallax started to eat Abin Sur, who died at the beginning of Green Lantern, whose ring Hal Jordan got, which made Hal Jordan become the Green Lantern. Apparently Abin Sur has some fear in him, or was getting eaten by Parallax, because in their last moments he was filled with fear, and when Dr. Hector Hammond decided to examine him, he ended up touching Abin Sur, and that's when the fear-eating virus that is Parallax latched onto him like a symbiote, and then just spent the entire movie making him look uglier and making his head look bigger. Instead of taking inspiration from Venom and making Parallax and Hector Hammond this symbiotic relationship we kind of have to care about, because, you know, he'd be a voice in his head, kind of like Venom has in the Venom movies now, and Norman Osborn and Green Goblin had in the Spider-Man movie, they don't do anything. It's just this guy who's like acting weird and is filled with anger, who's never really explained. He's just kind of like this doctor who gets summoned, like I said, and none of his actual personality traits or motives or whatever, none of it is explained. And that's okay, right? But like, there's a moment in this film where Hector Hammond looks at Carol's dad after Carol's dad goes into a helicopter after leaving this ball event, and he's angry, and he just stares, and he's like this. And the movie makes it a point to kind of make you slowly accept mentally, rather than telling you, that because of his anger and because Parallax is getting stronger, Hector Hammond has superpowers now because he made a thing explode, which brought the helicopter down, which forced Hal Jordan to swoop in and be Green Lantern and do heroic things. Yeah, this is the movie we're talking about. A movie that simply just every single possible way couldn't at least do something right. Parallax should have been a symbiotic-like being. We should have feared his commands. We should have feared what he was going to tell Hector Hammond to do. We should have feared that Hector Hammond was going to continue to use his powers. Instead, Hector Hammond's head just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then he gets a wheelchair, and then his head gets even bigger. And then he pretty much explodes, and Parallax comes, and it leads to the end of the movie, which is even worse. This movie should have had, at the end of the film, after Parallax decides he wants to come to Earth to try to destroy Earth and try to eat Earth or whatever, Hal Jordan should have flown into the sky after everyone is fleeing in the one cop car, literally there's one cop car only, that's telling people to evacuate or whatever. Hal Jordan should have flown by, and the camera should have panned to someone in the crowd, and people should have been like, it's a bird, and then it should have cut away to another person. It's a plane. Someone should have cut to another person. It's a joke. It's Superman. No, and then it cuts to Carol, the love interest of this movie, who doesn't really do anything. No, it's Green Lantern, and then epic music should have played as Green Lantern went to go fight Parallax and save the day. But no, this movie doesn't even have that. It's things like this that give Green Lantern the infamous, annoying, and well-deserved reputation that it has. Because every single thing about this movie, I wanted to not nitpick. Every single thing about this movie, I really wish I felt I was wrong about. At the end of the day, Green Lantern is this bad. Green Lantern sucks. It misses every layup, every opportunity, every sort of comic book reference, every sense of let's try to make this movie feel spectacular. No Spider-Man pun intended. It didn't do it. It didn't stick the landing. It failed. And it sucks. And it sucks because Green Lantern could have been a flawed movie. It could have been a cult classic. It could have been a movie that a small amount of hardcore Green Lantern fans enjoy. But instead, we have a movie that misses the mark in every single way. No comic book references, no easy layups, everything looks like a PS2 game, no sense of actual character development for Hal Jordan, nothing. Every single aspect of this movie is so poor that it is almost remarkable. Okay? It deserves, you know what? You did it. You somehow managed to be so bad that even Batman and Robin deserves credit retroactively for just doing everything it achieved. That's how bad Green Lantern is. Parallax sucks. He's an unremarkable villain. The final fight is just completely underwhelming. I don't understand why they thought it'd be cute to do a callback to when Hal Jordan first unintentionally uses his ring and makes a fist go flying. What should have happened is that he should have done the fist when he's in space looking at Parallax down, getting ready to destroy him, and he should have been like, you know what? A fist is not enough, and he could have turned it into a boxing glove, the shield to have a callback to Sinestro, or anything relating to DC Comics that DC fans would have laughed at or enjoyed. Or he could have done the turret thing, because you know everyone knows the one picture of the turret scene from this movie. But no, Parallax just gets punched at the end of the movie. Hal Jordan gets to save the girl, and the movie just lets you finally free of all the pain that you endure after watching this 2-hour unremarkable failure of a movie. Green Lantern sucks. Green Lantern is one of the worst superhero movies ever made. Green Lantern is one of those movies where, you know what, I hope people applaud me for sitting through and making this video. It was painful. It was unremarkable. It was frustrating. It was astounding, honestly, because I could not believe that this was the final product. And I know I have one Green Lantern video on this channel from years ago when I first launched this channel. I didn't even bother rewatching that video because I wanted to give this movie a second chance, because I was like, you know what? There's no way that this movie's as bad as I thought it was. This is not as bad as everyone says it is. This is not the movie that Ryan Reynolds is obsessing over and constantly reminding us and badgering into our heads of like, guys, remember the Green Lantern movie? Guys, remember Green Lantern? I got over that. I got over the Green Lantern movie. Look, I'm Deadpool now. Everyone loves Deadpool. We don't love Green Lantern. But no, Green Lantern is the most frustrating superhero movie I think I've watched in a very long time. It is up there with Madam Web. And it's just one of those things where I watched it so you don't have to. You're welcome. I never want to think about this movie ever again. I am very happy to move forward and enjoy good Green Lantern content. I'm happy that I at least have DC Universe Online where I can make a Green Lantern. I'm happy that there are other forms of Green Lantern content that exist, because I'm going to do what I've never done with any other superhero movie. And that is, I'm going to pretend that this movie no longer exists in my head after this video is published. Okay? So if you're watching this video, I want you to know, don't watch it. It's not worth your morbid curiosity. It's as bad as I say. It's as bad as everyone says. It's as bad as Ryan Reynolds says. It is an abomination. And that's all there is to be said. I don't want to beat a dead horse. Green Lantern sucks. It's not good. And I hope that the future Green Lantern content we're going to get will lead to brighter days, because this feels like the blackest night. With that being said, if you want me to watch the Green Lantern animated series and make a video about that, let me know in the comments down below. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comments down below. But please, if there's anything I want you to take away from this video, please don't forget the one quote I said at the beginning of this video. In brightest day, in blackest night, no terrible comic book movie escapes my sight.